So I was gonna do a video outside, but Florida in May and mosquitoes and my ankles just don't mix. So come back to you from my in-home studio, and I got my new flag there. Wear my shirt to go along with it. So I figured I would do another COVID type video since I haven't done one for a minute. So today is May the 4th, and there's been a lot going on. So basically, Florida reopened today. I think Georgia did too. Texas is soon to follow, along with a few other states. So I'm gonna start this out with kind of a history, and then go to a prediction. So this Wuhan Chinese COVID-19 virus is a bunch of bullshit. We have been lied to since the very beginning. We were told that the COVID-19 virus was zoological. It jumped from a bat to some other arbitrary animal and then to humans. No, it came out that basically the Wuhan COVID-19 virus is a coronavirus, which does show up in bats, but it just so happens that this virus has MERS and HIV RNA in it. Viruses don't mate. Viruses don't have sex with other viruses and create offsprings with a blending of their DNA. It doesn't work that way. This is a man-manipulated. It's been proven through other means other than what you're going to find in the open mainstream media. But anyway, it's a virus that's been man-manipulated. We were told by the WHO that there was no human-to-human transmission. This was back in January, I believe it was. Well, that's obviously not true. So the Chinese lied to us. The WHO lied to us. China lied from the outbreak from the very beginning, or lied about the outbreak from the very beginning with the scientists that were the whistleblowers out of China. They got disappeared. 20 million cell phone subscribers in China went just blatantly silent for some strange reason. And no one on the planet believes any numbers that China's putting out. So we have China, which is the originator of the virus, lying to us, and then we have the WHO, which is, you can call them the mouthpiece of the Chinese Communist Party, lying to us about human-to-human contact. Back on January 31st, Trump instituted a ban on direct flights from China, and of course the Democrats lost their minds and went out crazy. You had Pelosi in San Francisco, Chinatown in San Francisco, going, "Oh, come on out. Everything's great. Enjoy the festivities." At the same time, you had de Blasio from New York out in New York's Chinatown saying, "Hey, come on out. Enjoy the weather. It's great. Everybody's having a good time. Come on out. There's no need to sweat this virus." You had media talking heads. This is back in late January, early February, denouncing the Trump travel ban, saying that this is not as deadly as it was. It was comparative to the flu. This is out of mainstream media's mouth. Don't take my word for it. Look it up. It's all out there. So anyway, you get all these people lying to us, right? So then the Imperial College and the WHO came out with their models of 2.2 million deaths in the United States, 500,000 in the UK, which have since been reduced 3 times by more than 80%. So even the mortality, the deadliness of this disease has been reduced by more than 80% over the course of 3 reductions. So it's deadly. We all need to lock down. Well, it's not quite as deadly. Oh, it's not really that. Yeah, it's not very deadly at all. And then most recently, we had our own CDC come out this past weekend, which was the weekend of the 1st and 2nd, or the 2nd and 3rd, and came out with a graph where they had finally separated out strictly COVID-related deaths, segregated from COVID or somebody with pneumonia who also had COVID, separated from somebody with the flu who also had COVID. The COVID deaths that right before this came out was right at about 63,000 deaths. And when that came out on Saturday, there were 37,000 COVID deaths. So we've been lied to from the very beginnings. We've been lied to about the origins. We've been lied to about human-to-human contact or transmissibility. And then we're lied about how many people are going to die. And then we're lied about how many deaths there have been. We were lied to. Trump came out and talked about HCQ and Z-Pack, right? Remember all that stuff, right? Everybody denied it. Everybody fought against it. Oh, Trump's crazy. And then all of a sudden we see thousands of doctors across the planet saying, I've got about over a 90% success rate with this treatment, as long as it's obviously caught early enough. Then you have the, I can't remember the name of the drug at the moment, a drug that came out, which only thing it did was shorten the hospital time by like 3.5 days, but that's $1,000 a dose. Versus hydroxychloroquine and Z-Pack, which is about, $1.50 a dose. You had Fauci and Birx coming out saying, hey, we got this vaccine, obviously through the WHO and Bill Gates, and there's a whole bunch of shit with Bill Gates going on. It's been untested. They were going to run 2 tests in the United States, but at the same time, they're saying no to the hydroxychloroquine and Z-Pack combination for treatment, because there's been no scientific double-blind test, even though hydroxychloroquine has been on the market since the 1940s. Z-Packs have been out on the market since 1960. The side effects are well documented and tested for both drugs. The only thing that wasn't tested was using this in conjunction with or to fight against the COVID-19 virus. You don't need a scientific double-blind test on drugs that have been on the market for over 50 fucking years. You test it on people with COVID to see how it fucking works. We already know what the side effects are. We already know for both of them, the hydroxychloroquine and the Z-Pack. You don't need a double-blind test. However, when it comes to the vaccine, they're willing to put that in, inject it into the American public or the global public without being tested. There's no double-blind test, but we have Fauci and Birx up there in D.C. saying, we need to do this. And they also resisted against hydroxychloroquine Z-Pack treatment. Kind of weird. We were initially told when he started doing all the shutdowns and the social distancing that the original intent was to reduce the peak in order to prevent a all-out rush on our medical facilities and overwhelming them. That's what we were told. That's what was published. That's what was put out by everybody, to include Fauci. Well, we're a month and a half into it, and then states are starting to want to open back up. And then now states like Michigan and California and Virginia and North Carolina and Minnesota or whatever are extending their stay-at-home orders. You have people in you got the dumbass in Michigan, Whitlis or Whitmore. You can go to you can go to Walmart and buy food, but you can't buy clothes because obviously, apparently clothes are non-essential according to the governor of Michigan. You can go to Walmart and buy groceries, but you can't buy seeds. You can't buy plants. You can't buy any products for lawn care or whatever there at the store. Even though you're already there, you're already in public. You can't buy certain products because it's non-essential. What the fuck has that got to do with dropping the peak? We dropped the peak. We're beyond the peak. We're now on the downslope of the curve. That was the whole point of the shutdown. That was the whole point of the social distancing bullshit that all the governors in the United States put out. We're beyond that now. Why the fuck are they still doing this? Why are these governors still instituting and extending these bans? Why? Why can you not buy seeds in Michigan or buy clothes at the Walmart in Michigan? Why can't you go out to the public parks or whatever in Virginia? Why do you have to wear a mask in California? And if you don't wear a mask in public, you can get fined up to $1,000. Why are people being arrested for opening their businesses now? Even though we're beyond the curve, we've reduced the peak. We kept our medical facilities from being overwhelmed, so we should be able to open back up. But now we have people that are being arrested for it. We've been lied to from the very beginning, and we're still being lied to. Churches were closed. The whole, First Amendment thing. The First Amendment to the Bill of Rights. The very First Amendment they put in, free practice of religion. I don't know. You can't go to church. You can go to Walmart. You can go to Lowe's. You can go to Home Depot. But you can't go to fucking church. You had the churches in Mississippi where they were doing drive-up services and people were staying inside their cars. And the police were out there handing out fucking tickets and citations. For what? You obviously live in the same household as the people that are in your fucking car, but yet if you go to church, you get fined. So why wouldn't you get fined for being at home with the same people? Again, we have been lied to from the very beginning. We've been herded like sheep. Like, you have grocery stores that have the arrows on the floor, or the spots, maintain 6 foot separation between the people in front of you, the people behind you. And people are fucking doing it without even asking, without even wondering, well, what the hell is all this about? Why is it necessary to be able to go the same way up and down the aisles in the grocery store? What the hell does that got to do with social distancing? What the hell does that got to do with preventing droplets from getting onto food or getting on other people? What the fuck has that got to do with anything? You got your dumbasses that are sitting there off to the side of the aisle. We may be all going the same way. But then if you're sitting there waiting, looking, trying to decide what the hell you want to buy, I'm going to go right the fuck around you. Now we're within 6 foot of each other. But people are accepting it and obeying it. Obeying it. You got people that are being fined in California. There was a judge in Texas. If you don't wear a mask out in public, you're going to be fined and possibly jailed. The CDC came out with their own guidance. If you're a normal, healthy adult, that don't wear a mask. That was from the CDC. If you wear a homemade mask, let's just stop for a second. And I want you guys to think. I want you to pay attention to this. The size of the virus is 100 to 120 microns. Okay? Very small. The holes, the gaps between the threads of your homemade mask are 400 to 500 microns. They're not going to stop the goddamn virus. They're not going to stop the droplets from coming out. They're still going to come out. They may be smaller, but they're still coming out. They don't work. And then think about this. You're sitting there breathing into a mask with temperature, with air that's about 98 degrees. Your mask is going to, and it's got all kinds of stuff coming out of your lungs, right? That's going to be trapped inside your mask. It's going to make your mask humid. It's going to make your mask wet from everything that you're breathing out. That's a breeding ground for fucking bacteria. And then you got people that sit there constantly moving their mask, moving and pull it down because they can't breathe, and put it back up and they move it around. They're still touching their damn face. It doesn't do any good. Just quit wearing your fucking masks. I digress. You got big stores that are open like Walmart, Lowe's, and Home Depot, like I said before. Well, you got small mom and pop hardware stores that sell the exact same goods that they do, but they can't stay open. So riddle me this: if you have 100 people at Walmart because the other little stores are closed, but you open up the other little stores, you take a third of their traffic out of Walmart and they go over there, now you have your people spread out. But we can't do that because the mom and pop store selling seed and hardware parts and light bulbs and screws, the little mom and pop hardware stores, they're not essential. But you can go to Lowe's or Home Depot with 100 other people and buy the same thing. How does that stop the coronavirus from spreading? Riddle me that. Tell me, how does that help? You got Lowe's and Home Depot, which are your major chains that are staying open, selling the same thing that the mom and pop hardware stores sell, but the mom and pop hardware stores can't stay open because they're not essential for selling the same exact thing that Home Depot and Lowe's is selling. You can split your populace in half, or at least by 2/3, 1/3, or 2/3 go to Lowe's and Home Depot and the other third go over there, creating a gap between the two people. Is logic, is that illogical? Does that not make sense? You got stores where you can't go and buy clothes. Clothes are non-essential. According to the governor of Michigan, you can go to Walmart and buy food, but you can't buy clothes because clothes are non-essential. There's this thing called a hierarchy of needs. If you look into it, I'm not talking about Pavlov's dogs. I'm talking about the hierarchy of needs. Clothing is one of those. I'm sorry. If my clothes are tattered and torn, I'm going to go buy new clothes. But I can't go do that in Michigan. So apparently the people in Michigan either need to A, wear their ragtag clothes, or B, go naked. I'd say go naked if you really want to prove a point. Just me. So now we're sitting here with, you got all kinds of people debating this issue, right? Florida opened up the state today, phase 1, if you will. people lost their fucking minds. You got people talking about Florida is hiding and not reporting their true or accurate COVID deaths. Florida is intentionally keeping their COVID death numbers down in order for them, because they can meet the presidential requirement of phase 1 so they can reopen. All right, you got New York adding 3,700 deaths to the death count, even though there's no positive test or no positive test result from those people, but they had the symptoms, they met the high probability standards, so therefore they fall into the COVID deaths. PA or Pennsylvania, a week ago, reduced the numbers by 200 because they got caught padding their numbers, so they reduced them by 200. And then just this past weekend, the CDC reduced the numbers by almost half. But we need to shut it down. We need to stay home because we're looking out for grandma and grandpa, right? Sure. You take New York City. New York City alone. New York City has 8.9 million people. It's the most populous city in the United States. Okay, cool. They got 30% of the COVID deaths in the United States. Tell me how that happens. 1/3. This country has 331 to 370 million people living in it, depending upon the numbers you want to believe. New York has 8.9% of the 8.9 million people living in that city, but they account for 30% of the population. Let's think about this for a minute. 331 million people. We'll go with that number because that's the one that everybody seems to agree upon, right? 331 million people. 1% of that would be 3.3 million people. 30%. New York City alone, who has less than 10% of the population in the United States, has 30% of the COVID deaths. It's weird, right? There's no discernible difference in the numbers between countries that lock down. Or even in the United States, there was 8 states that said, we ain't locking down, right? There's no discernible difference in their numbers. The peak, you have the beginning, you have the peak, you have the end. You have countries like Sweden and Japan. Everybody's talking about, oh, their numbers are going up. Look at their mortality rate. It's not. Japan, you can argue Sweden all you want to, but look at Japan. Japan did not do the lockdown stuff. There are Tokyo, which has almost twice as many people living in Tokyo as does New York City, but they have almost 10 times less the deaths. Tell me how we're not being lied to. Everyone's concerned about the curve and the spike in the cases, right? So everyone's worried about the spike when everything reopens. I'm going to ask you something I've always asked. I've been asking since March when I started doing my YouTube video. Everybody's going to catch this. My question is, so what? And I asked that for very specific reasons. There were antibody tests that have been done in Santa Clara County, LA County, New York, Chicago, and Philadelphia just came up with theirs, right? Those tests prove, if you add all their congregates or add all their percentages together, that roughly 7.5% of the United States population has had the coronavirus. Add those numbers into the recovered because they no longer have it because they have antibodies to it. Your mortality rate is back down to the flu level, 0.3 to 0.5% mortality rate. But then again, I ask you, so if these people have the antibodies but they never knew they had the disease, exactly how deadly is this? You keep hearing about the asymptomatic people, right? There's only 2 types of asymptomatic people. You have the people who just recently contracted the virus and haven't just started displaying the symptoms because it takes about 10 days, apparently, for symptoms to start showing, right? So if you test them on day 5 and they're positive but they're asymptomatic, okay, granted. But the other one are people that who have caught the disease, never knew they had it, never displayed a symptom, and now they have antibodies for it. Those people were the asymptomatic people. That alone should make you go, well, hang on a second. If we have these millions of people that are asymptomatic, according to these antibody tests that we've been doing all over the country, how deadly is this disease then? You have millions of people that have had this disease, according to statistics, according to the numbers from the antibody tests, who never displayed a symptom, never knew they had it. Or they may have displayed, mild symptoms like, flu, cold type symptoms, but they never knew they had it. They didn't have to go on ventilators or BiPAPs or CPAPs. They didn't have to have the HCQ treatment. They didn't have to have any of that stuff. They stayed home, ate chicken noodle soup, and ate peanut butter jelly sandwiches. And then they were fine. You keep hearing about, the asymptomatic people are going to transfer to grandma and grandpa. No, they're not. As long as grandma and grandpa take care of themselves, or you stay the fuck away from grandma and grandpa if you don't want them to get sick. You could be an asymptomatic carrier. But if you're asymptomatic, if we have millions upon millions of people that are asymptomatic, and we have only 100 and some odd thousand people that are 900 and some odd thousand people that have it, and only 67,000 people, 37,000 people have died, how deadly is this disease? The Imperial College and WHO originally came out with projections of 2.2 million people in the U.S. were going to die from it. They've now reduced those numbers 3 times by more than 80%, and they're going to reduce them again because now the CDC came out and said, no. Strictly COVID deaths with no other underlying medical conditions like pneumonia or the flu or cardiac arrest or cardiac conditions or lung conditions. That number's now down to 37,000 people in the United States, which is 0.0003% of the population in the United States. How deadly is this disease? You are scared. You are afraid. You are worried. You want to save your grandma and grandpa. Stay the fuck home. Have grandma and grandpa stay home, wear their mask, wear their gloves, spray everything down with Lysol, wipe everything down with the Lysol wipes. Great. You do you. But this disease has been lied about. This virus has been lied about since the very fucking beginning. Every aspect of this virus has been lied about. We have been lied to as a general population, not just in the United States, but globally speaking, about every aspect of this virus, where it came from, transmissibility, contagion, mortality rate, everything about this virus we have been lied to. And the same people that lied to us are the ones that are now telling us we need to stay at home. In the United States, you have different states that are doing it. You got somebody, or who was it, Oregon, that just kicked everything out till fucking June. California just kicked their shit out to the end of May. For what? For what? For a disease with less than 1% mortality rate? Let's think about this for a second. Everybody keeps talking about the flu and corona. All right, so first and foremost, the coronavirus and the flu virus are not the same virus. They're two totally different things. I hope we understand this. One is the coronavirus, one is the flu virus. Okay, we good. So the flu kills roughly 60 to 65,000 people in the United States every year, even though we have a vaccine for it. The way this works, there's flu type A, flu type B. The powers that be get together every year and go, okay, we think it's going to be, Papa needs a pair of shoes. Oh, it's going to be type A this year. So your vaccine that you get is a type A. You don't get a vaccine for both, by the way. You get either type A or type B. Well, guess what? If you get a vaccine for type A and type B happens to be the one that you wipe your nose and catch, guess what you got? You got the fucking flu. But you've been conditioned to understand and accept the risk of the flu. You've been conditioned to believe that it is a necessary risk, that you can't shut down life support systems, you can't shut down medical facilities, you can't shut down the economy over the flu. It's an acceptable risk that we all fucking take. The reason why people are freaking the fuck out about COVID is because it's a novel virus. It's a newly man-manipulated virus that you haven't been conditioned to think about. You don't know what to think about this virus. I've been saying since March 25th that this shit doesn't add up with this virus. You haven't been conditioned on what to believe on the coronavirus yet. Some of you people that I call Karens are all about stay at home and call the police because your neighbor has 12 people over and you got this tattoo shop that's opening up, so you're going to call the police and be a good little Nazi. That's exactly what the fuck you are. You got people that the UN just came out with a study this past weekend that are roughly 100. Okay, let's rewind that. There's roughly 9 million people on the planet that die every year of starvation / malnutrition. Okay? The UN came out with a study just this past weekend. They're projecting 130 million people this year alone are going to die of starvation and or malnutrition directly because of the measures undertaken by the governments across the planet because of COVID-19. You're risking 130 million fucking people's lives over a virus that hasn't killed over 100,000 fucking people. Oh, if you could just save one life, you're going to kill over 130 million fucking people. And that's not even counting the suicides. That's not even counting the drug overdoses. That's not even counting the dysentery. That's not even taking into factor the homelessness that all this shit's going to cause. That's just strictly the malnutrition deaths in the third world countries on this planet. All because of a fucking virus in the United States, and it's only killed 37,000 fucking people. When is it going to get through your head? What is it going to fucking take? If you still believe what this government is putting out, if you still believe what the mainstream media puts out about this virus, you are a goddamn fool. Just go back and look, whether it's CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, whatever it is. Watch them from beginning to end. They have all changed their narrative on this virus. Every single mainstream media news outlet has changed what they have said about this virus. We have been lied to since the beginning. The numbers don't add up. The numbers are being inflated. I put out a video not too long ago about hospitals / states that are getting more money if they have a COVID patient, and they get even more money if they have a COVID patient that has to go on a ventilator versus a patient that has just the flu. All of a sudden, we have a third or 2/3 less flu deaths in the United States this past flu season, mysteriously. We got states where nobody has died from cardiac arrest in 3 months, mysteriously, or from lung issues, mysteriously. But yet they have this high COVID count. So here's my prediction. You got states like Florida and Georgia that just opened up. There's a bunch of states that are going to follow suit, right? So I said this from the very beginning when they started testing policies and procedures that were being used. They were using the high probability standards, meaning they only tested people that traveled through a known COVID hotspot, they had been in close contact with a positive COVID patient, or they were displaying symptoms. That's the 3 categories for high probability testing. Okay. Well, if you're only targeting a specific group of people that you think that show symptoms or fall into that high probability group, the odds are your tests are going to be high. You're going to have high positives, which is exactly what the fuck happened. So states are starting to open up. We have the phase 1, 2, and 3 stuff that came from Trump, and the governors are playing along with it, right? What's also happening at the same exact time? We now have testing that is opened up in several states to anybody that wants it. The antibody tests show there's millions upon millions of people that have had this disease. We were doing the high probability testing and we were disregarding a whole bunch of other people, right? You're asymptomatics because they didn't travel through this, they didn't have this symptom, they weren't in close proximity to a known COVID patient, right? Here's what's going to happen. They've opened the testing wide open. As a matter of fact, where I live, 20 minutes up the road, you can drive through and get a test. You don't have to have an appointment. You don't have to have the symptoms. You don't have to have a doctor sign off on it. You drive through, they swab your nose and all the other crap, and you have a test done. Guess what's going to happen? Just guess. Your COVID count's going to go up. Because instead of only testing this amount of people, you are now testing this amount of people. But again, I question you. So what if they have it? So what if the number of COVID patient goes up with the mortality rate being 37,000 people in the United States over the last 5 months of this disease? Who the fuck cares? But everybody's going to care because the mainstream media, what are they going to push? Oh, look, Florida opened up and now they have this many positive cases. Well, when you double or triple your testing, you're going to get more fucking people. Mark my words, it is May the 4th at 12 minutes after 7 p.m. that Preston Cornett is saying this is what's going to happen. You're going to have states where they're opened up. They've already also opened up their testing. They're going to have more people. So what's going to happen? Everybody's going to be screaming again for a shutdown. And who's screaming for a shutdown? Who? It's a couple different types of people. You have people that have not missed a paycheck. They still, whether they're working full time or not, they haven't missed a dime out of their paycheck. You're going to have people that are making more money off unemployment because of the CARES Act than what they were making while they were working their full-time job. Who you are not going to hear from in the mainstream press are the mom and pop stores. You're not going to hear from the people that were completely laid off and are now not making any money. You're going to hear from the independent contractors who can't file for unemployment. You're not going to hear from the mom and pop stores that got shut down because they can't file for unemployment because they were business owners, not employees. You're not going to hear from them. You're going to hear from the other Karens on this fucking planet. And yeah, I read all the stories and I heard the news about the Karen is a new N-word. No, it ain't. One's an entitled bitch by choice. It's not the new N-word. It's a perfect descriptive of you dumbasses who by choice decide what you think is better for everybody else. And you go to your congressman, you call your police because your neighbors has 10 people. You're the fucking problem. I digress. So anyway, your COVID count's going to go up in these states and the mainstream media is going to start pushing for another lockdown. Now, let me go into why I think this is going to happen the way it's happening. It's all because everything medical along this device or with this virus has been reduced when it comes to mortality rate, treatments, all this other bullshit, right? This virus is not as deadly as we were told. We've been lied to from the very beginning about this virus. It is as deadly as the normal, everyday, common flu. I don't care if you think I'm crazy. Look at the fucking numbers. It's the same exact rate. 0.3 to 0.5%. So anyway, look what's going on in DC right now. I'm going to do another video on this too. But all I've got to say is the only way the Democrats and the left are going to beat Trump is if this economy tanks. That's it. Period. Point blank. End of sentence. Hope you enjoyed. Have a good evening.